Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. This is our third webinar in a series of 3 webinars presented by Gina and Rebecca that are educating us on their marketing expertise. Today, we're going to be talking about digital marketing. So with that, I will introduce our presenters. Gina Ramsey has worked in marketing and advertising for 20 plus years and has a wide depth and breadth of knowledge and experience in digital marketing. She started her own company, Pink Dog Digital, in an effort to offer small and medium-sized businesses effective digital marketing campaigns to drive traffic to their website. And her goal with her company is to have her clients reach their maximum potential through digital advertising. Our second presenter today is Rebecca Teef. Rebecca is a creative, a marketer, a problem solver who always believes the glass is half full. Her company, Redstart Creative, was started in 2009 with a mission to help organizations create clear communications to drive positive change. So just a reminder that this, before I hand it over to these 2 ladies, this is being recorded. So just a disclaimer to know that any interactions here is going to be recorded. Once this is finished being live, we'll house this recording in our archives on the BBB YouTube page. So you will get a follow-up email that will have the link to this, and there is where the other 2 webinars in the series live, as well as a multitude of other webinars on various business topics. You can find that there. So without any further ado, I will hand this over to Gina. Are you starting?
Yes, ma'am.
All righty.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I know I saw a couple familiar faces in the room, but I can only see 5 on my screen right now. So if you're a friend, make sure you chat me up in the chat. Speaking of chat, please use it for questions throughout the seminar. Don't wait until the end. We'd rather have a conversation than be talking heads up here. And also feel free to put your contact information in the chat so that you can network with the other people in the room. So Rebecca and I are here to talk about marketing in a digital world. The entire world is digital right now. So it's not digital marketing as part of marketing, it's the whole part of marketing within this digital space. And I'm not having technical difficulties here. So we're going to first start with kind of a 101 and the types of digital advertising. Display ads are number 1. They're the ones that you see the most. These are banner ads, these are text ads, it's wallpaper, it's video ads. They are typically going to be found on websites that you frequent, including blogs that you frequent. A lot of times you'll see affiliate ads within particular blogs. I don't know about you, but when I'm looking at a recipe, I like to skip to the recipe instead of the ads themselves. The other ads that we see a lot are social media ads. There are 2 types of social media posts. There are organic and paid ads. You can always tell a paid ad because it will say promoted here. You'll also see some over here, but the organic ads or the organic posts that you're putting on your social channels are only going to be seen by the actively engaged followers to your page. 1 to 3% of those organic posts are going to be seen. The paid ads are going to be targeted to specific audiences and will be seen in their feed or wherever they happen to be. Could be Reels, it could be a number of places, but they're specific to social media. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and recently a lot with Snapchat and TikTok. Search engine ads, most of you recognize Google ads. They can be text ads, they can be a number of things. They will be marked ad. They're typically at the top 3, bottom 3, and we're seeing Google do some things in the maps, but that hasn't fully worked itself out yet. There are two ways to purchase these ads. One is pay per click, and with my accent, people think I'm saying paperclip. It's not a piece of office equipment. It is pay per click. And then there's also cost per thousand. Pay per click is exactly what it sounds like. You have a bank of money. Every time somebody clicks on that ad, they're withdrawing from your bank. Cost per thousand is impression based. If any of you have done TV or radio, they'll talk about the numbers of impressions you receive from a particular ad. There's no guarantee the person saw it. It just means that it showed up in their feed or in their search or somewhere that they were, that ad appeared, but it does not mean somebody actually physically saw the ad. Native advertising appears, it's adjacent to a website along the side. It's in a feed on, if you follow Apple News, there's some ads in there. It's native to that particular platform, if that makes sense. Retargeting and remarketing, people use interchangeably. I call these stalker ads. I was in my basement a couple of years ago, and I happened to look at a pair of UGG boots, and then I went to Facebook, and 2 seconds later, it was an ad that said X-year-old women from Baltimore with UGG boots. So when you think people are chasing you around the internet, they in fact are. Remarketing and retargeting can be confusing. Even this explanation sometimes people can disagree with it, but retargeting is when you go to a website, go to an ad, and then that ad starts popping up all over the place. Remarketing, this can also be called automation, is when you fill out a form on a cart and then all of a sudden your inbox continues to get ads and you continue to see ads in other places. I've seen remarketing and retargeting used interchangeably. I've seen them used even differently than this, but just know that they're in the same family. Video ads are huge. If I go to a website, or if I go to Google and I search for bedroom, whatever, office furniture, and then I go to stream something on YouTube, you can get a push down ad that you have to look at for X number of seconds from that vendor before you can see the content. Video ads in general across all platforms get a much higher engagement than standard image ads or text ads. So if you haven't looked at investing in video, I highly, highly recommend it. Email marketing. And this is not the thing of spam. This is not buying lists. This is curating lists of existing customers and prospects to stay top of mind. It's also, again, remember that retargeting, if somebody went to your website, if they filled out an email, they didn't make a purchase, you can do abandoned cart emails, you can send special offers, you can do nurturing campaigns to build loyalty and branding. So email marketing done right can be really, really effective, both in the B2B and B2C space. There are a number of advantages and disadvantages to each. Right now, back in the day, there used to be something called directional and creative advertising. Creative advertising was TV, radio, where it was a branding exercise. You were putting your message out there, hoping that people would find you when they had a need for your product or service. Directional advertising used to be the yellow pages. Now it's online. Everybody's online. And we can target ads extremely effectively depending on the platform. So for example, in Facebook, you can load your email list into Facebook, create a like audience, and they'll crowdsource more people like the people that are buying from you. You can also really, really monitor the results. We can see what campaign brought this person into a website who ultimately made a purchase. And you can apply those purchase dollars towards the cost to develop ROI. The disadvantage is there's so many options out there. What's the right one for you? And if you go it alone or hire the wrong company, the mistakes can be very costly. Everyone's doing internet advertising, so you have to really be creative in your approach. You have to make sure that the campaigns are set up properly, and you have to make sure that you're changing up your creative often, because people get bored if they see the same thing more than once. So with that, I am going to head over to Rebecca to talk a little bit about online advertising costs.
Great. And to your point, Gina, about, the creative on the ads and the multiple times people see things, the old adage of people need to see something 6 to 7 times. I think it's even more for it to even make an impression on them. That's something to think about. So to be clear, it is not, I think from a marketing perspective, it's really great that if you look at something, then you're going to see those ads in your Facebook. You're probably going to get an abandoned cart email, because you need that many exposures before you're going to make a purchase. So they're essentially just applying what was, always what we did in marketing was the multiple exposures. It's just happening in a different way. And I would say the technology is certainly intense when you go ahead and look at it. And so what I really like about this presentation is we are breaking it down so you can have a basic understanding of these things when you're hearing the different terminology. So today we're going to talk about, when we talk about advertising, and we've talked about some of these already, but we're going to talk about Google, Facebook, and Instagram, because those are the big ones. And when deciding how to pay for an ad, you need to look at the different ways it could be. There could be, the cost per impression that Gina mentioned, the pay per click, or the cost per action. And each of them are going to be very different in how the pricing structure is. So when you're looking to set up your digital campaign, think you can go ahead and consider these different options. And I always recommend start with a budget. Every business should have a budget for marketing and for advertising. So think about what is affordable for your company right now. Work with, if you're the owner, work with your CFO on the budget forecast, or work within and have an idea. And you do need to budget for these things, because you can't just say, oh, I'd like to spend some money on advertising. It needs to be done well. It needs to be done consistently in order to provide results. So Google, the average cost per click is $2. So that means every time somebody is clicking, and like Gina said, withdrawing from the bank, that's a little over $2. The ads are highly relevant to the search queries, which I like, because people are going to Google to find something, right? So they better make sure, if people are investing in their advertising, that they are relevant ads. And what it'll do is it will drive qualified traffic to you, right? So if somebody's searching for that, this is a great example, like picture framing, right? They're already pre-qualified when they're going on that link because it was something they were looking for. So on Google, the average cost per click on the display network is under $1. So again, within the same platform, we have a very different pricing structure. However, there's a lower click-through rate, right? So you're paying less money, but you're getting less people on your ad. So it's very similar to, you get what you pay for, right? So if you're willing to pay a little bit more for advertising, you're going to get more qualified ads. But this again is another way you can do it with in the display network. It's less money, but you're going to get less click-through. But you are going to get a lot of reach. And as Gina said earlier, you can do video or animation within this.
Rebecca, let me just back up to explain to people the difference between Google Ads and Google Display Network. The Google Ads appear in a Google search on the search engine results page. Google Display Network appears among partner pages. So it could be ESPN, it could be a number of things. The one that we've got represented here is a news page. So it's not direct search, it's more of that creative advertising versus that directional advertising.
Absolutely. Yeah, more of like a billboard, right?
Correct.
More of a billboard than, I don't know, I can't think of what the flip side would be, but
Well,
you know,
it's
more
search versus branding and creative.
Mhm. That's a great point. And again, in the search, you're getting that more qualified lead, but here you are getting exposure and you are getting people to see.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the part that I like I like to get into, and I think is really, really important. So every time you're doing the search, Google is working behind the scenes saying, what ad am I going to put there, right? So we don't know any of this, right? We could be searching for framing a picture. Well, Google's going to be going through on the back end and going, okay, based upon this whole pot of people I have who's advertising, what ads are we going to display? What order are they going to be in? And then how much does everyone pay? So it varies. It is not the same every time. And that could be based upon your search history. That could be based upon, you know, somebody could put in the phrasing slightly differently. And you can see here, you know, advertiser one, they might be placed first, but they're only paying $2. But somebody else might be paying more. And this is where it goes to this quality score in the middle. And this is what we're going to dig into a little bit. How well have you done your ad, right? And because Google is changing all the time, because they're updating things, I know Gina and I both have people on our teams that are staying on top of this. What is Google switching? What is Google changing? And making sure you have that quality in your ad so you are appearing well.
Yep. Without that ad score, you're going to pay more money and get less results. So focus on your quality, focus on your ad, focus on your creative, and then fit a budget that you're comfortable with. If you get a 10 out of 10 on the quality score, you're going to pay less for a campaign than somebody that's bidding more than you is going to receive.
And I think what's interesting about that, when you're talking about the quality score, it's based upon the content of the ad. And if you've been in any of the other webinars we've done, we must have said content 50 times in every webinar. Everything is about the quality of your content, whether that's the content on your website, whether that's the content on your social, you know, content is key to Google. So they are going to reward you for good content, whether it's in your ads or whether it's on your website that you're updating with quality content. So I think that's something that's a little bit of a parallel to some of the things we've talked about before. Yep. And they'll rate you, right? So once your ads are up there for a while, they'll see, are people actually clicking through this ad? And if your click-through rate is low, your quality score will go down because they're saying there's a disconnect there. Something isn't working. The relevance of the keyword, right? So how does your keyword relate? Landing page quality and relevance. Again, where are you directing people to go? How, you know, again, what is the text? And then what's your history? So they're going to be consistently evaluating this. So you could come out of the gate, you know, doing a really great job, but if you're not changing up that creative, if you're not changing up that verbiage, people can get bored, it can go down. So it's really, really important to be on top of your Google advertising to make sure you're doing a good job. You know, again, there's lots and lots of ways to do it. And some of you may have heard with Google does ad grants for nonprofits, which is wonderful. However, they have a caveat that you can only get Google ad grants if you do a really good job at Google Ads, which typically means you're getting the free advertising dollars, but you do need to hire somebody to manage it. So again, all about that content.
Well, and I want to say something about those grants because I've gotten the grants for a number of the nonprofits that I've worked with. There's a cap on what your max bid is, and if the keyword cost is higher than your max bid, you've gotten a grant that you can't do anything with. So it can be a misnomer to nonprofits that take all this time and all this energy and all this effort to get the grant and then find out they can't use the money anyhow. And then Google pulls the money. So I would do your research on the cost per click, the cost per keyword before you make the grant application.
Yeah, absolutely. So this just gives you a little bit of an overview of, I think the stat was earlier that the cost per click was a little over $2. Well, this shows you it's average, right? So certain industries are more expensive than others. So again, we've got the search versus the display. So there's the average. But if you look, long government, that's considerably more expensive in search because apparently law firms are investing a lot of money in that online advertising. Also, if you look at finance, if you look at business, so it can also be very industry specific. But again, if you see that display ad cost on those partner sites is less, you're going to have less click through, but you will have exposure. So there you go. Some of the most expensive costs per click. That is insane. $770. So that must be fiercely competitive for those keywords for best motorcycle accident lawyer. And then even so, still $35. That's still very expensive as well when we're looking at the averages a little over $2. So again, how to control your costs. So raise your quality score, look at that content, look at what your click-through rate is, all of the different things you can do to raise your quality score. You can also schedule your ads, right? So not that it's any time, but if you want to restrict the time, geo-targeting, which I think is great, you can target locations if you want to attract foot traffic to a retail store. And then you can also do device targeting. So when people do mobile searches, you can do the near me. And again, Google, this is not overnight. Google's been working towards this for years, when all of a sudden, this also relates back to why it's really important that you have a mobile friendly website, right? Because if you want to get in on that device targeting and those mobile searches, you need to make sure your site is mobile friendly.
So before I keep rolling through, do we have any questions, Clay?
Not so far.
Okay.
I got a direct message asking if this is going to be recorded, and yes, it will be recorded, but nothing pertaining to the presentation so far. So great job, guys.
Great, thank you. So we're gonna go ahead, excuse me, we're gonna set up some ads. What is the biggest problem with people setting up their own ads? They don't know how to do it. And they go in the dashboard and they just start doing what they think is right. And they find out they are making a huge, huge mistake. Google, for one, has a certification course that's free that you can get to do ads. Go online, sign in, it's a multi-module, and you can learn how to do it. Without this, you are going to spend more money and get less conversion. Additionally, people think they can set these campaigns up and let them go. That is not the case. You constantly have to be in there optimizing, changing, adding keywords, deleting keywords, changing the match types, putting in negative keywords, changing your bidding strategies. If you're not looking at first the education of how to do it, then to do it, and then to monitor it against your ROI, you are going to lose money. I promise you. So if you are going to embark on digital advertising, whatever platform, go to Google, go to YouTube, follow blog posts, sign up for webinars, but learn what they are, how to set them up, and then how to evaluate them. You also need to look at, what do people want when they are looking for these ads? So try and assess your audience, try and assess their intent. Ads are great ROI. You can get really good traction. It's not just for really, really wealthy companies that are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. There are a number of tools within Google that a smaller budget will actually show efficacy. But if you're doing it yourself, you need to make sure that you're doing it right. It doesn't matter how much or how little you spend. If the ad campaigns are poorly constructed, they're going to return poor results. In general, for AdWords campaigns, and it's technically not even AdWords anymore, it's just called Google Ads, but I can't stop saying it because I've been saying AdWords for 1,000 years. I don't recommend you go in on less than a $10 a day budget. I think that that's probably your minimum. I mean, if you think about it, I had a client who had a $20 a day budget, but their average keyword was $24. So they were never going to get anything out of their AdWords. So again, know your audience, know your cost per ad word, and then what your overall budget is, and then make sure the ads are set up properly. Facebook ads are interesting because in some cases they are more expensive than AdWord ads. However, their targeting is significantly more refined. You can target by a variety of demographics. You can create those like audiences. You can really hone in on, women in Baltimore between the ages of 25 and 35 who like mommy and me Facebook pages and garden and like to golf. You can get that specific. Where with Google, you're pretty much limited to the demographics. Location is the big one. And then you're relying on the keyword phrases, the negative keyword phrases, and the matches on the keywords. So I would say to you that while you'll spend more per click, depending on what kind of business you are, particularly a business to consumer base, you're going to get more conversion with a properly constructed Facebook ad. Same thing here. Every day I hear, oh, I know how to do that. You just boost the post. A boosted post is not a Facebook ad campaign. A boosted post is exactly what it is. It's quick, it's dirty. I'm a restaurant, I'm at 5 o'clock and I've got half of my capacity. I'm going to do a free appetizer to everyone that walks in with this discount code. Boost the post, done. It's quick, it's dirty. It is not an ad campaign. The Google ad platform is complex and you need to be educated in how to use it in order to use it effectively. Again, same thing. It's an auction style. How much money do you want to spend on a daily basis? Once the ad budget is depleted, it's gone. You can either do it by day or you can do it by campaign. Be careful if you run it by a campaign. You don't want your money to roll out and then you're left, if you've got a $300 a month budget and you burn through it in the first 3 days, you've now got the rest of the days in the month that you're not going to get any traction in your ad campaigns. So just be very careful with that budget. Again, we are talking averages here. The average cost per click is $1.72, which is inexpensive and great for people with limited budgets. See, now in this slide, it says that it's lower than Google. I've not experienced that, but I also do really, really targeted. If you go in with a generic campaign, I want women between the ages of 24 and 55 that live in Baltimore. That's going to be lower than Google. But if we put in all those other things, that cost per click goes up significantly and the number of people you reach is less, but that means your conversion is going to be higher. So how do you control the cost? Make sure that you've set the maximum budget that you're comfortable with, whether that's by day or by campaign, look at your day parting. So if you are only open between 8 and 5, it makes sense to run ads at that time. Oh, your audience is online between 7 and 9. That's a different part. That's a different animal. So I think you need to know your audience as well as your capacity. And again, lots of targeting, lots of demographics. The more you are specific with your audience, the better your ROI is going to be. I will say that Facebook has changed a number of things. You've seen it in the news. One of the things that they've done is they've eliminated some of the targeting options that were shown to be discriminatory. People not wanting to advertise in certain neighborhoods. That has been taken away, thankfully. So you're not seeing as much discrimination that you have in the past. Real estate market got in trouble for that. Some of the contractors got in trouble for that. So you can't target good neighborhoods. You have to give equal opportunity to all folks. I apologize, my dog. Rebecca, I think this one is yours.
Yes, I will finish out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Going You're just too tech savvy, Gina, with this fancy
and my dog is
transitions.
about to lose his mind. So go ahead.
So Facebook ads, again, the targeting is so refined on Facebook. You can really get great ROI on that for small businesses with a niche focus. And again, all of the reasons that Gina mentioned earlier, that if you want to target somebody, Facebook knows if you like gardening, if you're mommy and me groups, and if you golf, right? Or Facebook knows that I am in some parenting groups. I'm in some business groups on Facebook. It sees the names of the pages. It knows I'm in Baltimore. So it knows all of those things. So typically I'm usually not mad because Facebook and Instagram get what people in my demographic are looking for. Gina and I joke all the time about how we buy products off of Facebook and Instagram, because if you like this and if you like this, most likely you will like this. If it's done well. And I've just seen some really great, I kind of see the flip side of it, right? When I see ads, I'm like, man, they're doing a really good job. Or you see the rotating creative, or you see the different things, but you can have a modest budget on Facebook and that can go a long way. So I think that's something to look at. Now, the thing to remember is there's less purchase intent, right? Because the Google, they've done the search terms, right? So they are closer to making a purchase. However, you can really target people by their interests, especially with those niche focuses. And again, you can influence people and you can show up. And when you're consistently showing up, at some point, somebody's going to click on it on the Facebook feed. I keep getting these, because I clicked on it once, these really cool hair tools that a ton of bloggers do. It's like L-A-N-G,
Yep.
but it has an apostrophe. So I think you
Lorraine,
pronounce it fancy. Yes, you pronounce it fancy. But I've clicked on those a few times because I'm like, probably at some point I will end up buying one of those because they're showing me different content. They're showing me relevant content as they go through. And again, moving over to Instagram, again, Instagram, we talked about in our previous webinars, it is a visual platform. You've got to have great visuals. So that's really, really important. You've got to have great visuals in your feed. And you want to think about that when you're doing the advertising. Videos also drive a ton of engagement. Again, look at this stat, 1 billion monthly users with Instagram. It's only second to Facebook. And again, Instagram is a highly engaged platform. You also have on Instagram, you have people watching Instagram stories, and I can't remember the stat off the top of my head, but you've got tons and tons of users watching Instagram stories every day, and you can have ads within Instagram stories. So you can manage all of it because Facebook and Instagram are Facebook owns Instagram now. So you can manage it all through the same ad manager, which I think is very helpful.
Which allows you to split up the budgets between the two as well.
So again, similar model to Facebook. Instagram ads have a higher engagement, but they do have that added cost, which that makes sense, right? If you're getting a better return, Instagram is going to charge you more for that. But you want to look at, what are your objectives, right? And that's going to help the pricing figure out. Is it brand awareness is going to be lower than an actual purchase, right? If you're just promoting brand awareness, that's going to cost less than clicking through to purchase on a product. Again, high quality content. Yes, we all have heard the conversations of life doesn't have to look like a perfectly curated Instagram feed. However, Instagram is a visually beautiful platform, right? So even hard-hitting content, right? There's a bunch of Instagram users that are extremely vocal, in the social justice space, in the political space, but they make sure that everything looks really good, right? They have, if they're doing quotes, if they're doing just verbiage, they're making sure it's all within a stylized content within their brand. So that's something to think about. If your ad is going to be in the middle of everything that looks really great, make sure yours looks really good and is consistent with your brand. You can remove, costly audiences from your targeting, and you can also retarget. Again, the retargeting Gina talked about earlier, to people that have already visited your site. So how can you control the costs if Instagram is in fact a little more expensive than Facebook? So, again, it's so funny. I feel like I'm repeating the same thing, but Instagram have a higher expectations of ad creative because it's a visual platform, right? So you want to make sure you're doing that. With the better your creative, the better your ad is going to perform. And again, in order to get that good ROI, you not only want to develop that great creative and that engaging content, right? That's all within your brand. You want to have a plan to refresh it, right? So you want to have probably a rotation of images, and you want to change them every so often so people are not seeing the same thing.
Again, both with Facebook and Instagram, video ads have a much higher click-through rate and a much higher conversion rate. If you don't have the ability to get a real video, there are services out there that will stitch together images and create video-like platforms. One of them is Vidnami, where you can utilize a Vidnami video in your social, and most people won't know the difference between a regular video and a Vidnami video.
A great point. So bottom line, they do really well with sponsored or branded content. So that's why we have, Instagram influencers, people that have a certain following, are paid or compensated to share a brand, because if you're following them, you're interested in what they're doing. Huge potential for ROI for customers who are heavy Instagram users. And again, going back to, you can look at the demographics of who is primarily on Instagram in one of the previous presentations we did. And again, I feel like this is we can take like a quick pause. If you're just joining today and haven't been on the other ones, please go back, and I think they can still go back and watch them in the library. But the first one was all about how to get your website ready for visitors. Make sure your website's ready, right? The second one was all about how to update the content on your website, get your social content moving, and your email marketing moving. All of this, so then you are ready for what we are talking about today. So if you're sitting here today and you're like, this is a lot, I'm a little unsure, it's okay, because you're going to leave today with an understanding of these terms. You're going to leave with a general understanding of each of these platforms. And then you can go back and say, is my website ready for this? What do I need to do to my social? I want to advertise on Instagram. Maybe I need to bump up the look of what I'm doing or the quality of my images. So again, it's a continuum. Not everybody is going to jump in and leave today and go, I'm ready to go do this. But this is going to give you the context and the understanding of these different platforms. And then you can decide, as you're doing your marketing plan, where it can fit in.
Great point. So it all starts with a plan. Everything in life starts with a plan, including digital advertising. So the way to think about this is that paid traffic is like a hose. You can make it hard and fast, you can slow it down, you've got control over it. Organic, if your website is set up properly, if you have highly engaging content on your social channels, organic traffic's like rain. It's always going to come. You have no control over it, but it's always going to come. And I think you need to do both in order to maximize your lead potential. Sometimes I talk about organic and paid, the difference between going to the gym and liposuction. Organic traffic's like going to the gym. It takes a lot of work, a lot of hard work. You got to keep at it, but once you're there, you're in good shape. Paid traffic's like liposuction. It's expensive, but it can be extremely effective and it's very quick. But the minute you stop, the engagement falls off. So food for thought. Think about your customer journey. Sometimes they don't even know that your product or service exists or that you're able to serve their problems. Those ads need to start in the awareness phase. Once they know who you are and are seriously considering making a purchase, you want to engage them and make them think you are the best at what you do. The hair products that Rebecca was talking about, there's a million knockoffs out there, but because of the quality of the ads and the number of influencers that promote those products, I'm probably going to buy that product because I trust that product more than I trust C product that isn't that good. And then conversion. These are where people are taking action. You want to get people into a call to action where they are going to buy from your product or service. You've got to think about your traffic at the same time you think about that funnel. Cold people are at the top of the funnel. Warm people are at the middle of the funnel. Hot traffic, they're ready to make a buy right now. So you need to look at what are your goals within the traffic. You know, cold traffic, you want to introduce yourself. You want them to know who you are. Warm traffic is, okay, they've heard of you. Now what do you have to offer them? And then hot traffic is make some money. Get them to buy your product or service and become one of your best customers. There's 5 things that you need in a campaign that are important. And the first thing is your offer. Nobody wants to hear that I sell cell phones, but if I sell a great cell phone at 50% off, now I'm listening. So an offer always has a bonus, best is free, then is dollars off, then is percentage off, or you can offer an add-on, buy an entree, get a free appetizer, but always, always, always incorporate an offer in your campaign. We've beat content to death. I'll do it again. Your ad has to be compelling. It has to be clear why somebody would buy for you. It has to have a sense of urgency. It has to have an offer. It has to be persuasive. It needs to present a solution to their problem.
And Gina, what I like about that is there's a couple of other webinars that are being presented by the BBB talking about if you're having a hard time articulating who you are, what you do, and why you matter, go look at some of the other webinars that have been there, because you have to be concise. You internally have to have a good understanding of that before you're successfully going to get that in an ad. So if you've had to pivot in the last year, if your industry has changed, it's really important to go in and look at that, because that's the foundation, before the website. So that's just something to think of as you're doing this content. If you're stuck or having a hard time, pull back and go, who are we and why are we special and why would people want to do business with us?
Great point. I appreciate that. So Rebecca talked a little bit about creative, particularly in Instagram. You can do image ads, you can do video ads, you can do graphic ads, you can do carousel ads. Whatever you do, make sure that the creative matches your content and matches your offer, and make sure that it's able to communicate within 1 to 2 seconds. I don't want to have to go, what the hell are they selling? Like, be crystal clear in your creative and in your content about what it is you're trying to sell them. Ad sent. This is probably the number one mistake I see brands of all size, large brands and small brands. They have a great ad, they've got a great offer, they've got great creative, they've got great content, and you click on it and you get to a landing page that's their company contact form or their company homepage. Your ad sent should lead them to the next step in their buying decision. So if I'm saying 10% off of massage, I better go to a page that has a few things about massage, the locations, and a form to fill out so I can buy massage. I don't want to go to the salon page that has all the salon suite of services with a pop-up that says, are you interested in one of these? If your ad's about a thing, your landing page should be about a thing. The design, the message, the offer, it should be the same from the beginning of the journey to the end of the journey. And I have seen so many big companies make this mistake. And this leads people to not trust your company. They feel like it's bait and switch. You've seen 100 times, you go to look at a video on Instagram and it makes you watch for 30 minutes before it gets to the end game. I'm looking at this for 2 minutes. If I don't have the thing I'm looking for in the first minute or two, I'm clicking off. So make sure your ad sent is solid. And make sure you know your audience. If you are targeting women between the ages of 25 and 55, and somebody in their a male in their 70s is seeing the ad, number one, you're doing the wrong targeting. You're not going to get the conversion, and the messaging is missed. Why am I going to, if I'm a 70-year-old male, why am I getting something about UGG boots? So you've got to know how to utilize the platform to get to the people that you want to get to, and make sure that your messaging matches their target temperature. If they've never heard of you before and you're in their face with a buy from me now because I'm awesome message, they're gonna be lost. You need to build through that target temperature and through that buying funnel to make sure you're going from the wide end down to the narrow end. So how do you create one? This grid is a little confusing, but it will help you identify who your avatar is, who's your client, who's your prospect, and what are they most interested in. And this will then allow you to create the ads. So once you fill out this grid, there are 7 steps to plan, implement, and scale your campaign. And we're going to help you go through them. And we're going to go through it a little quick because we're running out of time. I recognize that. So if anybody needs to reach out to me for more explanation, my contact information will be at the end. So, step 1, identify your avatars. Who's the person that you want to sell to? What is most appealing to them about your offer? Once you segment these messages, you can create the ad copy, and you'll wind up with 9 separate ads to reach 3 different avatars. So this is a really important step. If I'm selling something, a student is going to look at my ad differently than a teacher, different than an artist. Do your research. What websites do they like? Where do they live? What's unique to this group? Again, a student is going to be traveling between classes. A teacher is going to be going to PTA meetings. Artists are going to go to freelance gigs. What's unique about this group? Then you need to create the visual element. Think about it. A teacher is going to look at something creative differently than an artist. So make sure that you're building not only your content, but your creative around the avatar's personality, likes, dislikes, temperatures, what they're all about.
Gina,
designed for you.
I have a quick question for you
Yep.
that I want your take on. So a shortcut, let's just say a shortcut, is if you think you have a targeted email list of what your ideal customers are, you can upload it into Facebook and do a lookalike audience for help with Facebook. What are your thoughts on that? Do you recommend that? Or do you think that's I would think it's a shortcut over this. This is definitely the more in-depth way to do it. And to caution that email lists aren't always the best. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think it is a shortcut. I think it is an effective shortcut in some industries, but I don't think it's a solution for all. One of the ones that we've been extraordinarily successful with creating like audiences is we've got a client that does OT and PT. So we took the lists of their existing practitioners, OTs and PTs, uploaded it, and then sought like audiences of other OTs and other PTs in the geographies that we were recruiting for. And that was extremely effective. It's going to be challenging on broader campaigns. So it depends on what your business is, what your products and services are, and who your audience is. Does that help?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I'm nodding my head. I'm like, yes. So that is something, and I do like the caution with it. It's something you can do. It is a shortcut. Make sure it will work for your industry.
Right. It's not a broad brushstroke. It's not going to work for every single person. So now you've got your creative, everything's ready to go. Let's deploy those ads. Let's make sure that we've got our budget set, make sure we've got our day parsing set, make sure that the proper ad is with the proper keyword, with the proper audience. Number 7 to me is probably more important than anything else. And that is what's working, what's not, and what do we have to change? Because to throw money at advertising and not be able to determine what we're getting out of it is throwing money away. So you need to develop a system for collecting and analyzing the data and look at it frequently. Look at it once a week, because you could have one week look like this and one week look like that. Well, did I change the creative? Did I have a national news incident that caused people to be away from Facebook? You know, what happened? And look at it frequently. Some of the primary stats that you should be looking at, and I apologize, I have these floating heads. Let me get rid of everybody. You need to make sure that you're looking at your campaign and optimizing it frequently. You know, your goal is to start with those cold people, warm it up, and then drive them to a close. But you need to build campaigns for all of those temperatures. Rebecca and I probably get very different ads on the Lagrange or whatever it's called, hair products, than somebody that's never seen the product before. So understand you're building towards an audience and where they are in your funnel, but you need to develop ads for everyone in that funnel. So one way to optimize, and this is just one way, I'm not suggesting this is the ultimate be all, is on a $10 daily ad spend, spend $6 on cold traffic, $3 on warm traffic, and $1 on really hitting those high dollar opportunities. So it helps you maintain your budget. It also means you're creating a lot more ads. So this can be labor intensive and time intensive, and just make sure you're not taking the boost post shortcut to just try and get dollars out there, because that's never going to work. Some of the things you want to look at are click-through rate, the cost per acquisition, the cost per lead, the cost per click, and the cost per impressions. I don't love impression-based purchasing for the most part, unless it's strictly a brand campaign. So we'll talk about the top 4. Click-through rate is the number of impressions, is the number of clicks divided by the number of impressions. That's the number of people that actually clicked on your ad and what that percentage is. The higher the percentage, the more chances you have of taking the person to the next stage in the journey. It doesn't mean that every person that's going to click through is going to buy from you. It just means that they're highly engaged, and now you need to engage them additionally in another way. The cost per acquisition is the amount of advertising spent divided by the number of, sorry, my husband's distracting me, by the number of customers generated. So you'll be able to actually see how much each one of those new customers cost to obtain. Same thing, cost per lead, the amount of advertising spend divided by the leads generated. So first you need to look at the cost per lead, and then you need to look at the cost per acquisition. And that number can be very, very different, but it is an important number to look at. And the cost per click is obviously how much you're paying per click in the ad set. I am rapidly running out of time here. So when you're looking at it, evaluate the offer, perform A/B testing, try 2 different versions of an ad, refine your creative, adjust your keywords. Always optimize your campaign. Bottom line is your ROI. This is an investment in your business. Make sure you look at what's important to you. A 5-to-1 ROI may be successful, but it depends on the cost of your product. And don't let ROI lead you astray. Sometimes a campaign is very effective. It just needs a little bit to make it a lot better. Okay, now I feel like I'm out of breath. So this is Rebecca and I. And if you have any questions or concerns, please let us know. We're absolutely able to talk to you at any time on any of the channels available. And if you want to talk to Joanne about any of the BBB's digital products, here's her contact information, and you can reach her there. And I'm done.
Awesome, Gina. And the one thing I was going to say is Gina and I are putting together an email that they're going to send to attendees. And we're both going to include a link if you guys want to schedule 30 minutes to talk with either one of us, to get more in depth, to ask follow-up questions, to say, where should I start? We're happy to do that. So we're hoping to get that to you, Clay and Joanne, in the next couple of days, so you can just send it out to attendees, because obviously we love to talk about this stuff. We understand that some of the stuff we talked about today is not going to feel easily absorbable to everybody, but it's, you know, it's building blocks.
Great. Thank you. This was extremely informative. And as the person that manages our digital products for our accredited businesses, I found it extremely informative myself. So remember to check for this recording when it'll come in an email probably by Monday, Clay, once it downloads.
Yeah, either tomorrow or Monday.
Yep. And check out our YouTube page where the other 2 components of this suite of this series will be housed, and we look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Check out our events page. We have not only more digital content, but just general business content as well coming up in the next couple weeks. So thanks again, ladies. This has been great. Thanks for all you've done for BBB.
Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for everybody for attending.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.